Your soulmate wants to stay with you forever. But there's one condition: don't scroll. Listen to this. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now, because something bigger than coincidence brought you here, something ancient and intentional, something your soul recognized before your mind could catch up. And if you've been feeling a strange emotional pull lately, like love is getting closer but not fully here yet, that's not imagination, that's alignment. That's the universe adjusting timelines just to get your attention. And listen to this: you didn't find this message by accident, it found you because you are standing at a turning point in your love story, and your heart needs this right now because someone tied to your destiny is already choosing you energetically, even if words haven't been spoken yet. And don't scroll, because this part matters. Your soulmate doesn't want you temporarily, they want you permanently. They don't want moments, they want a lifetime, but the universe placed one sacred condition on this forever connection, and it's not what most people think. It's not perfection, it's not having it all figured out, it's not being flawless or fearless, it's alignment, it's emotional truth, it's becoming the version of you that can hold real love without breaking yourself to keep it. And listen to this: lately you've been shedding old patterns, old heartbreaks, old attachments that no longer fit. You've been feeling called to choose peace over chaos, self-respect over chasing, growth over comfort, and your heart needs this right now because that is not random, that is preparation. The universe never brings forever love to a heart that's still clinging to pain. And don't scroll, because the signs have been around you. Angel numbers popping up when you're thinking about love, 1111 when you're wishing for something real, 222 when you're questioning your path, 444 when you need reassurance that you're supported. And listen to this: those numbers are not lucky, they're messages, reminders that your connection is protected and guided. And your heart needs this right now because you've been feeling emotionally awakened lately, more sensitive, more aware, more unwilling to settle for surface-level love. And that's because your soulmate can only stay forever with the healed version of you, not the version that begs to be chosen. And don't scroll, because here's the truth most people never tell you: the one condition your soulmate needs is not you proving your worth, it's you knowing your worth, it's you standing in your power without closing your heart, it's you choosing yourself even when love feels uncertain. And listen to this: every time you stop chasing, every time you release control, every time you say, "What's meant for me will meet me," you move closer to them energetically. And your heart needs this right now because love doesn't chase alignment, it responds to it. And don't scroll, because your soulmate feels this shift too. They feel you pulling back from desperation and stepping into confidence. They feel you becoming emotionally grounded, and that's what draws them in deeper, not louder words, not constant attention, but your calm strength. And listen to this: you've probably been feeling a strange calm mixed with anticipation lately. Like you're not anxious anymore, but you're still aware something is coming, and your heart needs this right now because that's the universe saying you're ready to receive without fear. And don't scroll, because the condition is not about waiting, it's about becoming emotionally available without being needy, becoming open without being attached, becoming loving without abandoning yourself. And listen to this: the universe has been clearing space around you, removing people who couldn't meet your depth, breaking cycles that kept you small. And your heart needs this right now because what's meant to stay forever needs room to enter fully. And don't scroll, because this connection is not being delayed, it's being protected, protected from old wounds, protected from rushing, protected from repeating the past. And listen to this: your soulmate is watching you grow, feeling your energy shift, sensing your emotional maturity. And that's why they're moving closer in subtle ways. through thoughts, dreams, sudden urges to reach out, unexplainable pull toward you. And your heart needs this right now because this is not fantasy, this is spiritual alignment unfolding in real time. And don't scroll, because part 1 ends here for a reason, because the next part reveals what happens when you finally meet this condition and why the moment you stop trying to control love is the moment forever starts moving toward you. Listen to this. Stay open, stay grounded, stay true to yourself, because the universe is not done with your love story yet. Don't scroll, listen to this, because if you made it to part 2, this message is for you, and your heart needs this right now more than you realize, because what you felt in part 1 wasn't hype, it was recognition, and recognition always comes before revelation. And listen closely, because now the universe wants to show you what that one condition really looks like in real life, not in theory, not in quotes, but in the way you move, breathe, love, and choose yourself every single day. And your heart needs this right now because this is where most people miss their forever connection, not because love isn't real, but because they try to carry old wounds into new destiny. And listen to this, your soulmate wants to stay with you forever, but they can only stay if you stop shrinking yourself to be loved, if you stop over-explaining your worth, if you stop negotiating your boundaries just to keep someone close. And don't scroll, because this part is sacred. The condition is emotional alignment, and emotional alignment is not pretending to be healed, it's being honest about your triggers without letting them control you, it's choosing calm instead of chaos, clarity instead of guessing games. And your heart needs this right now because you've already started doing this without realizing it. You've been feeling tired of surface-level conversations, tired of chasing attention, tired of repeating the same emotional cycles. And that exhaustion wasn't weakness, it was your soul outgrowing the past. And listen to this, when you outgrow old patterns, the universe creates space for something new to enter. And don't scroll, because this is where your soulmate feels the shift, not through your words, but through your energy. They sense that you're no longer available for half love, and that makes them step up or step away, and the one meant to stay forever always steps up, even if it scares them at first. And your heart needs this right now because fear doesn't disappear instantly, but commitment begins quietly, through effort, presence, consistency, and honesty. And listen to this, your soulmate is drawn to the version of you that stands in self-respect, not the version that waits by the phone, not the version that accepts crumbs, but the version that knows silence doesn't define worth. And don't scroll, because the universe has been training you for this moment, through delays, through lessons, through emotional awakenings, and those angel numbers you've been seeing lately weren't just signs, they were reminders that you're being supported while you level up emotionally. And listen to this, when you see repeating numbers during moments of reflection or growth, that's the universe saying, keep going, you're on the right path. And your heart needs this right now because doubt has tried to convince you that love always comes with struggle, but healthy love comes with peace, not pressure. And don't scroll, because here's the truth that changes everything. Forever love doesn't begin when someone chooses you, it begins when you choose yourself first, and when you stop outsourcing your happiness to someone else. Love meets you as an equal, not a savior. And listen to this, your soulmate doesn't want to rescue you, they want to build with you, and building requires stability, emotional maturity, and mutual effort. And your heart needs this right now because you've been building yourself quietly, healing, growing, learning how to be alone without feeling lonely, and that's exactly what makes you ready for something real. And don't scroll, because the moment you stop romanticizing emotional chaos is the moment you align with lasting love. And listen to this, passion without peace burns fast, but love with stability lasts, and your soulmate feels this too. They're being pulled toward the grounded version of you, not the wounded one. And your heart needs this right now because the connection is not about fixing each other, it's about choosing each other from a place of wholeness. And don't scroll, because you're closer than you think, not because time passed, but because you changed. And listen to this, change is the real manifestation tool, not wishing, not waiting, becoming. And your heart needs this right now because you didn't go through everything just to repeat the same love story. You went through it to upgrade the ending. And don't scroll, because the universe is positioning moments, conversations, and opportunities for truth to surface naturally. And when it does, it won't feel forced, it will feel right. And listen to this, right doesn't come with anxiety, it comes with calm certainty. And your heart needs this right now because you're learning to recognize that feeling. And don't scroll, because part 3 will reveal what your soulmate is doing right now behind the scenes and how their feelings are evolving as you continue choosing yourself. And listen to this, stay open, stay grounded, and trust the process, because forever isn't built in a rush, it's built in alignment. Stay with me for a moment, because if you've come this far, something inside you already knows this is bigger than curiosity, this is recognition. And what's unfolding now is the phase where destiny stops testing patience and starts reshaping reality, because your soulmate isn't just thinking about staying with you forever anymore, they are quietly deciding what kind of person they must become in order to deserve that future. And that decision doesn't happen overnight, it happens in private moments when they sit with their thoughts, replay your energy, remember how safe they felt around you, and realize that no distraction has been able to replace what your presence awakened in them. And here's the part most people never see. When someone is meant to walk beside you long term, their growth accelerates the moment you stop chasing and start standing firmly in who you are, because confidence without ego, softness without weakness, and boundaries without bitterness create a frequency that pulls real commitment forward. And lately you've been vibrating differently, not louder, not desperate, but steadier, calmer, more grounded. And that shift is not small, it's powerful, because the universe responds fastest to inner stability, not emotional urgency. And while you've been focusing on becoming emotionally stronger, your soulmate has been feeling an internal pressure to stop running from what they feel, to stop pretending the connection is casual, to stop delaying what their heart already accepted. And this is where things begin changing beneath the surface, because when avoidance becomes heavier than vulnerability, truth starts demanding space to breathe, and you might notice subtle signs appearing around you, meaningful coincidences, sudden memories, dreams that feel too real to ignore, moments where their name crosses your mind out of nowhere. These are not random, they're energetic check-ins, reminders that alignment is tightening, not fading. And here's something important your heart needs to hear right now. Forever love doesn't arrive when both people are perfect, it arrives when both are honest, when both stop hiding behind old defenses, when both decide that building something real matters more than protecting their comfort zones. And that's the stage your connection is entering now, where fantasy gives way to reality, where emotion becomes intention, and intention becomes movement. And you don't need to force this moment, because what's meant to stay doesn't require pressure, it responds to authenticity. And the more you continue choosing self-respect, emotional clarity, and peace, the easier it becomes for this love to step forward naturally. And you may already feel it, that quiet knowing replacing anxiety, that sense of readiness replacing doubt, that calm confidence growing inside you. That's not you detaching from love, that's you finally standing in alignment with it. and alignment changes everything, because when two people meet from wholeness instead of wounds, the connection doesn't drain energy, it multiplies it, and this is why the universe slowed things down earlier, not to delay you, but to protect you from building something permanent on unstable ground, and now that foundation is forming, steady, intentional, real, and what comes next won't feel chaotic or dramatic, it will feel natural, like something finally falling into place after a long period of preparation, and the most beautiful part is this: you won't have to chase forever, you won't have to prove yourself, you won't have to shrink to be loved, because when this connection steps fully into reality, it will meet you where you stand, not where you used to be. And that's when you'll understand why the universe asked you to grow first before letting this story continue. Stay right here for a moment, because what unfolds in this stage is subtle but powerful, the kind of shift you don't always notice immediately, yet it changes the direction of everything, and if your heart has been feeling steadier lately, less restless, more anchored, that's not coincidence, that's preparation, because this is the phase where connection moves from possibility into momentum. And while you've been learning how to protect your peace without closing your heart, your soulmate has been facing something equally intense. The realization that comfort without you feels empty, that routine without meaning no longer satisfies, that avoiding truth only delays fulfillment, and this awareness is reshaping their choices quietly, internally, moment by moment. And what's happening now is not loud, not dramatic, but deeply intentional, because destiny doesn't always arrive with fireworks, sometimes it enters softly, with clarity, resolve, and calm confidence, and you may start noticing strange patterns around you. Unexpected reminders, emotional flashes of memory, moments where time seems to pause briefly, these aren't distractions. They're alignment signals, nudges from the universe confirming that the distance between intention and action is shrinking, and what your heart needs to understand right now is this: lasting love doesn't grow from intensity alone, it grows from presence, responsibility, emotional courage, and shared direction, and that's exactly what's forming beneath the surface, not through force, but through awareness. And while you continue building your own emotional stability, learning how to trust yourself, honor boundaries, and choose peace over reaction, your soulmate is learning something equally important. How to stop running from vulnerability, how to stop hiding behind pride, how to stop delaying honesty out of fear of change, and this internal work is what allows two people to meet without repeating old cycles. And you might feel this energetic shift through subtle signs, deeper dreams, heightened intuition, stronger gut feelings, moments of emotional release that seem to come from nowhere. These aren't random waves, they're clearing processes, making space for something new to land without resistance, and this stage often feels quieter than the chaos before it, because chaos teaches lessons, but clarity builds foundations, and you're stepping into clarity now, the kind that doesn't scream, but settles into your bones and says, I know who I am, and I know what I deserve, and when someone carries that energy, it changes how love approaches them, because secure energy invites commitment, not confusion, and your soulmate feels this stability even from a distance, even without constant communication, because emotional maturity creates resonance that transcends physical presence, and the most powerful part of this phase is that you no longer feel the need to convince anyone to choose you, because you've already chosen yourself, and that shift is magnetic, not in a flashy way, but in a grounded, trustworthy way that draws real connection forward, and this is why the universe delayed certain moments earlier, not as punishment, but as protection, ensuring that when truth finally surfaces, it does so from strength instead of desperation, from readiness instead of reaction, and what comes next won't feel forced or rushed. It will unfold naturally through alignment of timing, emotional availability, and mutual willingness, and when this movement begins externally, it will feel familiar, like something your soul already rehearsed quietly, because recognition always arrives before reunion, and the more you remain centered, present, and emotionally clear, the smoother this transition becomes. And what you're stepping into now isn't fantasy love, it's conscious love, the kind that doesn't consume identity but complements it, the kind that builds instead of drains, the kind that chooses consistency over excitement and stability over uncertainty. And this is why your growth mattered so much. Because you weren't preparing to be chosen, you were preparing to meet someone as an equal, and equality creates balance. And balance creates longevity, and longevity is what this connection is designed for, not temporary sparks, not seasonal emotions, but something steady enough to withstand real life. And as this phase continues, you may notice your emotional reactions becoming calmer, your attachment patterns softening, your expectations becoming clearer. And that's not you losing feeling, that's you gaining wisdom. And wisdom is attractive to lasting love, because it creates emotional safety, and emotional safety is what allows vulnerability to exist without fear, and this is the environment your soulmate is stepping into now. Even if they don't consciously understand it yet, they feel it, they sense the difference, they recognize the shift, and that recognition is what moves someone from hesitation into action. And when that moment arrives, it won't feel chaotic. It will feel intentional, steady, sincere, and grounded, and that's how you'll know this is not another lesson, but a new chapter built on awareness, growth, and mutual respect. And the story isn't ending here, it's aligning, adjusting, settling into its true form, and everything you've become is what makes what comes next possible. Hold your attention here for a moment, because this phase carries a different kind of energy, quieter, steadier, more intentional. The kind that doesn't rush but doesn't stall either. And if you've noticed that your emotional world feels more balanced lately, that you're less reactive and more reflective, that's not accidental, it's the result of everything you've worked through internally finally stabilizing. And stability is the doorway through which lasting love enters, because this is the point where attraction evolves into commitment, where curiosity transforms into devotion. And while you've been strengthening your sense of self, your soulmate has been confronting something equally important, the truth that connection without courage leads nowhere, and this realization has been reshaping their priorities, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. And what's happening now is a shift from hesitation to intention, from uncertainty to resolve, from fantasy to real-world readiness. And you may start noticing subtle external changes reflecting this inner movement. Communication becoming more direct, interactions feeling more grounded, conversations carrying more meaning. These are not small details. They are indicators that alignment is translating into action, and what your heart needs to understand right now is this. Permanence is built through consistency, not intensity, through reliability, not adrenaline, through presence, not performance, and that's exactly the frequency forming around this connection. And as you continue standing firmly in your values, honoring your emotional needs, and choosing peace over emotional chaos, you're signaling to the universe that you're prepared for something sustainable, not fleeting. And your soulmate senses that readiness, because emotional maturity is recognizable even without words, and it draws people forward who are capable of meeting it. And this stage often feels less dramatic than earlier phases, because drama belongs to unresolved wounds, while growth belongs to quiet confidence. And you're stepping into confidence now, the kind that doesn't seek validation, but naturally attracts respect, and that respect changes the dynamic of the connection. Because when someone respects your energy, they approach with care, honesty, and accountability, and this is why the universe slowed earlier momentum. To ensure this phase could arrive clean, not tangled with old patterns, not burdened by emotional residue, but grounded in clarity, and what comes next won't feel like emotional turbulence, it will feel like forward movement without force, like progress without pressure, and that's how you'll know the foundation is strong, because healthy connection doesn't drain you, it energizes you, it doesn't confuse you, it clarifies you. And this is the type of bond you're stepping into now, one built on shared emotional responsibility, mutual effort, and aligned direction, and you might feel this shift internally as well, stronger intuition, deeper self-trust, less attachment to outcomes, more openness to flow. These are signs that your emotional world has stabilized enough to receive something real, and that stability is mirrored on the other side, because your soulmate has been learning how to remain present instead of avoiding discomfort, how to communicate instead of withdrawing, how to choose growth instead of comfort, and these lessons don't come easily, but they create lasting change, and lasting change creates space for lasting partnership. And what you're experiencing now is not the end of a journey, it's the beginning of a new dynamic, one where connection becomes cooperation, where emotion becomes intention, where attraction becomes building something together, and this shift may feel unfamiliar at first because it doesn't come with chaos or intensity, but it brings something better. Peace, clarity, security, and mutual respect, and those qualities create the environment where love can actually stay, not just arrive, and this is the part where patience turns into progress, where inner growth begins producing visible results, where alignment starts showing up in real experiences, and the more you remain centered, emotionally honest, and grounded in who you are, the more natural this unfolding becomes. Because you're no longer chasing connection, you're meeting it, and meeting energy always feels different than pursuing it. It feels mutual, balanced, steady, and that's the rhythm this connection is adopting now, one step at a time, one honest moment at a time, one aligned choice at a time, building something real instead of rushing something fragile, and everything you've learned, healed, and released is what made this stage possible. Pause with me for a moment, because this stage carries a different kind of weight, not heavy with fear, but rich with meaning. The kind that signals something lasting is taking shape, and if you've felt more grounded lately, more centered inside yourself, that's not by chance, it's the result of inner work finally settling into wisdom, and wisdom attracts partnerships that can actually endure, because this phase is about embodiment, not theory, about living what you've learned rather than just understanding it. And while you've been strengthening your emotional foundation, your soulmate has been navigating their own internal shift, letting go of old narratives, questioning past patterns, realizing that love doesn't require escape or avoidance, but presence and responsibility, and this realization reshapes how someone approaches connection, because once a person understands that real partnership requires showing up fully, half effort no longer feels satisfying, and you may start noticing small but meaningful changes reflecting this transformation. More intentional communication, deeper eye contact, increased emotional availability, subtle consistency, these signals aren't dramatic, yet they're powerful, because they indicate maturity rather than impulse, and maturity is what creates stability. And stability is the environment where long-term bonds thrive, and what your heart needs to recognize now is this. Lasting connection doesn't come from perfection, it comes from mutual willingness to grow, adapt, and remain open even when things feel uncomfortable, and that willingness is strengthening on both sides, quietly, naturally, without force, and this stage often feels calmer than earlier ones because turbulence belongs to unresolved wounds, while clarity brings steadiness, and steadiness allows you to breathe, to trust, to move forward without anxiety, and as you continue honoring your boundaries, valuing your emotional needs, and choosing self-respect over fear-based attachment, you're signaling readiness for something sustainable, and that signal doesn't go unnoticed, because people who are meant to stay recognize grounded energy instinctively, and this recognition creates momentum, not rushed movement, but consistent forward progress. And the dynamic between you is shifting from uncertainty into intentionality, from emotional fluctuation into reliability, from guessing into knowing, and this shift might show up through conversations that feel more real, interactions that feel more balanced, moments that feel purposeful rather than random, and those experiences confirm that alignment is no longer theoretical, it's becoming tangible, and this is why the universe guided you through earlier lessons. Not to delay you, but to prepare you for a connection that could actually last without repeating old cycles, and now that preparation is paying off, because you're no longer seeking validation from others, you're carrying self-trust, and self-trust is magnetic, not in an attention-seeking way, but in a grounded, authentic way that draws genuine connection, and your soulmate feels that difference. Because authenticity doesn't require explanation, it's felt, and when someone feels emotional safety around you, they naturally open up, become more present, more honest, more consistent, and this is the phase where truth starts replacing hesitation, where clarity begins replacing confusion, where emotional courage begins replacing avoidance, and these changes don't happen overnight, but they create a steady path forward, and what comes next will not be chaotic or unpredictable, it will feel natural. Like something evolving rather than erupting, because when alignment is real, it doesn't shock the system, it supports it, and you may notice your expectations changing too, less desire for intensity, more appreciation for consistency, less craving for validation, more value placed on emotional safety. These shifts reflect growth, not loss of passion, because passion paired with stability creates depth, not burnout, and depth is what sustains long-term connection, and this stage marks the transition from attraction to partnership, from emotion to intention, from desire to building something meaningful together, and as this unfolds, you'll feel less pressure to control outcomes, because trust has replaced fear, and trust allows things to develop organically, without forcing timelines or rushing conversations, and that natural unfolding creates stronger foundations, because relationships built slowly on awareness last longer than ones built quickly on emotion alone, and everything you've become internally is now shaping what manifests externally, creating a future that reflects your growth rather than repeating your past, and this is the kind of progress that doesn't need dramatic proof. Because you can feel it in your body, your thoughts, your sense of peace, your emotional steadiness, and that feeling tells you something real is forming. Stay present with this moment, because what unfolds now is not loud, not chaotic, not rushed. It's precise, intentional, and deeply rooted, the kind of movement that reshapes the future quietly but permanently, and if you've noticed your emotional world becoming calmer, your reactions softer, your perspective wider, that's not fading interest, that's maturity settling into place, because this phase is about integration, taking everything you've learned and allowing it to guide your choices instead of repeating old patterns. And while you've been strengthening your inner balance, your soulmate has been stepping into a similar process, confronting personal fears, questioning outdated beliefs, and recognizing that avoiding vulnerability no longer brings peace, only distance, and this realization shifts priorities, because once someone understands that connection requires courage, they stop hiding behind comfort zones and begin leaning toward truth, and you may start seeing subtle evidence of this transition. More initiative, clearer communication, steady presence, consistent effort. Not grand gestures, but meaningful actions that show emotional responsibility, and those behaviors are the building blocks of something lasting, because permanence isn't created through excitement alone, it's built through reliability, honesty, and mutual respect. And what your heart needs to understand right now is that you're no longer waiting for something to happen. You're participating in its formation through the way you carry yourself, the standards you hold, the energy you bring into interactions, and that participation matters, because it shapes the quality of what emerges, and this stage often feels quieter than earlier ones because chaos belongs to emotional imbalance, while clarity brings steadiness, and steadiness allows two people to meet without fear dominating the connection, and as you continue choosing emotional honesty, personal accountability, and self-respect, you're creating a safe emotional environment, and safety encourages openness, vulnerability, and commitment, and your soulmate senses this safety, because emotional security doesn't require explanation, it's felt in presence, tone, consistency, and energy, and when someone feels safe, they naturally lean in instead of pulling away, and that leaning in is happening now, not abruptly, but gradually, naturally, authentically, and this gradual movement creates stronger roots than sudden intensity ever could, because roots grow slowly, but they hold strong, and this is why earlier delays were necessary, not to frustrate you, but to ensure both sides could meet with awareness instead of unresolved baggage, and now that awareness is active, communication feels different, interactions carry more depth, intentions become clearer, and uncertainty fades into understanding, and you may notice your own expectations shifting as well. Less attraction to emotional unpredictability, more appreciation for stability, less desire for dramatic passion, more desire for genuine partnership, and these changes reflect growth, not settling, because mature love values consistency over chaos, presence over performance, and depth over surface-level excitement, and this is the kind of love you're aligning with now, one that doesn't require you to lose yourself, but encourages you to remain fully present as who you are, and this alignment creates a new rhythm between you and your soulmate, one based on cooperation instead of pursuit, mutual effort instead of imbalance, and shared direction instead of confusion, and this rhythm feels different because it's not built on fantasy, it's built on reality, and reality allows long-term connection to thrive, because it's sustainable, honest, and grounded, and what comes next will reflect this foundation. Conversations that carry intention, moments that feel purposeful, decisions that feel aligned, and these experiences confirm that you're no longer circling around possibility, you're stepping into embodiment, living the connection rather than imagining it, and embodiment brings confidence, not arrogance, but quiet assurance, the kind that doesn't need validation to feel secure. And that security changes how love shows up in your life, because secure energy attracts secure connection, and insecure patterns begin falling away naturally, and this is the stage where things finally feel balanced, not perfect, but real, not idealized, but honest, and honesty creates trust, and trust allows intimacy to deepen without fear, and that depth is what transforms connection into partnership, and partnership into something that can actually last, and everything you've been becoming has been guiding you to this point, where growth meets opportunity, where preparation meets manifestation, where inner work begins shaping outer reality in visible ways, and this process continues to unfold naturally, step by step, choice by choice, building something real instead of rushing something fragile. Remain here with this moment, because what unfolds now carries a different rhythm, steady, intentional, rooted in awareness rather than emotion alone. The kind of movement that doesn't rush forward but advances with purpose, and if you've felt a subtle shift inside yourself lately, a deeper sense of clarity, a quieter confidence, that's not random, it's the signal that preparation has transitioned into readiness, and readiness attracts connection that can actually endure, because this phase is about embodiment, not imagination, about living in alignment instead of waiting for something to arrive. And while you've been strengthening your sense of direction, your soulmate has been experiencing a parallel awakening, releasing outdated patterns, questioning emotional avoidance, and recognizing that meaningful partnership requires presence rather than distance, and this recognition changes behavior, not instantly, but gradually, through choices that reflect accountability, sincerity, and emotional availability. And you may begin noticing small but significant changes. Conversations that carry more depth, interactions that feel more balanced, moments that feel purposeful instead of uncertain. These shifts are not coincidences, they are reflections of internal transformation finally expressing itself outwardly, and what your heart needs to understand right now is this. Longevity is built through consistency, not intensity, through reliability, not excitement, through shared direction rather than emotional highs alone, and that foundation is forming naturally around this connection, not through force, but through mutual growth, and as you continue honoring your emotional boundaries, valuing your personal peace, and choosing authenticity over performance, you're creating an environment where lasting partnership can thrive, because authenticity invites honesty. And honesty creates trust, and trust is what allows intimacy to deepen without fear, and your soulmate senses this emotional safety, even without words, because safety is communicated through presence, tone, and consistency, and when someone feels emotionally secure, they lean toward closeness rather than pulling away, and that leaning forward is happening now. Not dramatically, but steadily, and this steady movement builds stronger foundations than sudden emotional surges ever could, because slow growth creates resilience, and resilience supports long-term connection, and this is why earlier phases felt slower or uncertain, not as obstacles, but as preparation, ensuring both sides could meet without carrying unresolved emotional weight into something meant to last. And now that emotional clarity has settled, interactions feel different, communication feels more intentional, and expectations become clearer, not heavier, and you may notice your own desires evolving as well. Less attraction to emotional unpredictability, more appreciation for stability, less craving for validation, more value placed on mutual respect, and these shifts reflect maturity, not loss of passion, because passion paired with emotional safety creates depth rather than chaos, and depth is what allows love to grow instead of burn out, and this stage marks the transition from possibility into reality, from dreaming about connection into building something tangible, and building requires patience, cooperation, and shared effort, not perfection, but consistency, and consistency is becoming the dominant energy around this bond now, shaping how moments unfold, how conversations develop, how choices are made, and these changes don't always announce themselves loudly, but they are felt through a sense of steadiness, through emotional balance, through the absence of constant doubt, and that absence creates space for presence. And presence strengthens intimacy, and intimacy deepens. connection, and this natural progression reflects alignment rather than force, and alignment feels different. It doesn't drain you, it supports you, it doesn't confuse you, it clarifies you, and this clarity allows both people to show up without masks, without emotional armor, without defensive habits, and when two individuals meet from this place, the connection doesn't feel fragile, it feels grounded, and grounded connection can weather challenges without collapsing, because it's built on understanding rather than fantasy. And this is the type of relationship forming now, one that doesn't require constant reassurance, because trust is present, one that doesn't depend on drama, because depth provides fulfillment, and one that doesn't demand perfection, because growth is shared, and as this stage continues unfolding, you may notice that you're no longer seeking signs or external confirmation, because your inner knowing has strengthened, and inner knowing guides your actions naturally, without anxiety, without pressure, and that calm certainty changes how love shows up in your life. Because you're no longer waiting for someone to complete you, you're allowing connection to complement who you already are, and this shift changes the dynamic completely, because when two whole individuals meet, they create partnership instead of dependency, collaboration instead of imbalance, support instead of struggle, and that dynamic is what sustains long-term connection. And everything you've experienced up to this point has been shaping you for this stage, preparing you to receive something real, stable, and lasting, not through wishful thinking, but through becoming someone capable of holding it, and now that preparation is unfolding into reality, step by step, moment by moment, choice by choice, building something meaningful that reflects growth rather than repeating the past. Stay connected to this moment, because what's happening now isn't just progress, it's convergence, the stage where separate paths finally begin moving toward the same destination, not through force, but through understanding, and if you've felt a deeper sense of emotional steadiness recently, a quiet confidence settling into your body, that's not accidental. It's the sign that inner alignment has reached a point where external reality can finally respond, and this phase is about synchronization, when timing, awareness, and readiness begin matching on both sides, and while you've been strengthening your sense of self, your soulmate has been undergoing a parallel transformation. Letting go of outdated emotional habits, recognizing the cost of avoidance, and realizing that meaningful partnership requires showing up fully rather than staying protected behind emotional distance, and this realization reshapes behavior, not dramatically, but consistently, through choices that reflect sincerity, reliability, and emotional openness, and you may start noticing subtle yet important shifts. Conversations that feel more intentional, gestures that feel more thoughtful, interactions that feel more grounded, these changes reflect internal commitment forming quietly, and what your heart needs to understand now is this. Convergence doesn't happen when two people are perfect, it happens when both are willing to grow together, to adapt, to communicate, and to remain present even when vulnerability feels uncomfortable, and this willingness creates momentum that moves connection forward naturally, and as you continue honoring your values, protecting your peace, and choosing emotional honesty over old patterns, you're creating an environment where long-term partnership can take root, because grounded energy attracts grounded connection, and your soulmate senses this stability, because emotional security doesn't require explanation, it's felt in tone, consistency, and presence, and when someone feels emotionally safe, they lean toward deeper closeness instead of pulling away, and that movement toward closeness is happening now, gradually, organically, without pressure. And this organic progression builds stronger foundations than sudden emotional surges ever could, because slow growth creates resilience, and resilience supports long-term commitment, and this stage may feel different from earlier ones because it lacks chaos, intensity, or emotional turbulence, but that's not loss of passion, it's maturity replacing instability, and maturity creates space for deeper intimacy, clearer communication, and stronger partnership, and you might notice your own expectations shifting as well. Less attraction to emotional unpredictability, more appreciation for reliability, less desire for validation, more emphasis on mutual respect. These changes reflect growth, not settling, because conscious connection values quality over drama, and this is the type of bond forming now, one that doesn't drain energy, but replenishes it, one that doesn't confuse, but clarifies, one that doesn't require constant reassurance, because trust is present, and trust allows two people to relax into connection rather than constantly questioning it. And this relaxation creates space for genuine closeness, and genuine closeness strengthens emotional intimacy, and emotional intimacy builds partnership, and partnership creates longevity, and this chain reaction reflects alignment, not coincidence, and as this alignment continues unfolding, you may notice fewer doubts, less overthinking, more presence in the moment, because your nervous system is adjusting to stability, and stability feels unfamiliar at first if you're used to emotional highs and lows. But once it settles, it becomes deeply comforting, and comfort doesn't mean boredom, it means safety, and safety allows love to expand without fear, and this expansion is what you're stepping into now, not sudden, not overwhelming, but steady and real, and the more you remain present, emotionally honest, and grounded in your identity, the smoother this process becomes, because you're no longer trying to control outcomes, you're allowing alignment to guide the direction. And alignment always brings people together in the right way, at the right pace, with the right foundation, and everything you've experienced up to this point has been shaping you for this stage, preparing you to participate in a connection built on mutual growth rather than emotional dependency, and now that preparation is translating into reality, step by step, through shared understanding, consistent effort, and intentional presence, creating something that doesn't just arrive, but stays, because it's built on awareness rather than illusion, and that difference is what makes it last. Stay present with this moment, because what's unfolding now carries completion energy, not an ending, but a full circle shift where everything you've learned, healed, and embodied begins shaping the reality you step into next. And if you felt a sense of inner calm paired with quiet anticipation, that's not random, it's the feeling of readiness meeting opportunity, and this phase is about integration, where emotional awareness, personal growth, and relational maturity finally align, and while you've been strengthening your inner stability, your soulmate has been experiencing a parallel realization. That meaningful partnership isn't built on fantasy or intensity alone, but on responsibility, communication, and shared direction, and this awareness changes how someone approaches connection, because once they understand that love requires effort, consistency, and presence, they stop seeking temporary comfort and begin preparing for something real, and you may notice this transformation through subtle but powerful shifts. Conversations carrying more clarity, decisions becoming more intentional, interactions reflecting deeper respect, these changes indicate internal commitment forming quietly, and what your heart needs to recognize now is this. Fulfillment doesn't arrive through perfection, it arrives through mutual dedication to growth, honesty, and emotional presence, and this dedication is strengthening on both sides, creating momentum that feels natural rather than forced, and as you continue honoring your emotional needs, protecting your peace, and remaining authentic, you're reinforcing an environment where long-term connection can thrive. Because authenticity attracts sincerity, and sincerity builds trust, and trust creates emotional safety, and emotional safety allows intimacy to deepen without fear, and your soulmate feels this shift, because safety is communicated through consistency, tone, and reliability, and when someone feels secure, they lean into closeness instead of withdrawing, and that leaning in marks the transition from potential into reality. And this reality feels different from earlier phases because it lacks emotional turbulence, not because passion is gone, but because maturity has replaced instability, and maturity supports depth, stability, and partnership, and you may notice your own expectations evolving as well, less attraction to emotional unpredictability, more appreciation for dependability, less craving for validation, more value placed on shared effort. These changes reflect alignment, not compromise, because conscious connection values sustainability over excitement alone, and this is the kind of bond forming now, one that doesn't exhaust you emotionally, but strengthens you, one that doesn't create confusion, but clarity, one that doesn't require constant reassurance, because mutual understanding is present. And this understanding allows two people to relax into the relationship instead of constantly questioning it, and relaxation creates space for genuine intimacy, and intimacy deepens connection, and connection strengthens partnership, and partnership supports longevity, and this natural progression reflects alignment rather than coincidence, and as this alignment continues, you may notice fewer doubts, less overthinking, more presence, because your nervous system is adjusting to emotional stability. And stability might feel unfamiliar at first if you're used to emotional highs and lows, but once it settles, it becomes deeply grounding, and grounding allows love to expand without fear, and this expansion is what you're stepping into now, not rushed, not dramatic, but steady and real, and the more you remain present, emotionally honest, and rooted in your values, the smoother this transition becomes, because you're no longer trying to force outcomes, you're allowing alignment to guide the direction, and alignment always brings people together in the right way. At the right pace, with the right foundation, and everything you've experienced up to this point has been shaping you for this stage, preparing you to participate in a connection built on mutual growth rather than emotional dependency, and now that preparation is unfolding into lived experience, step by step, through shared awareness, consistent effort, and intentional presence, creating something that doesn't just arrive, but stays, because it's built on understanding rather than illusion, and that difference is what makes it last.